Okay, welcome back to Man Cave Meals, and as promised, here is a video walkthrough of the Char-Griller Kamado Grill and Smoker. I picked this up at Lowe's yesterday, $2.99. I had been shopping for a big green egg, and during my shopping process, this guy popped up. It's a fairly new product. I figured I'd give it a try. I went and looked at it, and it looked like it's fairly well made, so I decided we'll give it a try. I put it together last night. It went together fairly easily. All you need tool-wise to put this together is it's really helpful to have a 7/16 socket or ratchet and a small adjustable wrench and maybe a Phillips head screwdriver, but everything pretty much goes together pretty easily. Let's start out. This thing has tables that fold up, one on each side. These are all metal construction, and they're hinged. They're hinged, so they fold up very nicely. And got one of those on each side. The air vent on top is metal. It's a powder coated metal of some sort. I don't know exactly what it's made of. And it slides to adjust your airflow. Has a built-in temperature gauge, and I was reading the manual. I don't know how accurate this gauge will be. Most of your grill gauges aren't that great, and this one's probably one of those. It said that it's accurate to within plus or minus 10% of the actual temperature. So if you're cooking at 400 degrees, this thermometer could read anywhere between 360 and 440, which for most cases is close enough. I tend to use digital temperature probes, so I'm not particularly worried about this one as anything other than a reference. Has a nice heavy handle here. These pieces, the brackets are metal and the handle itself is wooden, and we have a latch here for keeping the lid down when you're going to move it. It's not really designed to keep the lid tight with any pressure. The weight of the lid handles that on its own, so this is just a latch to keep the lid closed when you're moving the unit. Down below we have our lower air vent, which is a slide vent, just like all the other Kamado style cookers. It's a fairly large vent. It has some number indicators over here for whatever that's worth. I've never really worked by the numbers. It just kind of takes a little practice to dial something like this in. It's kind of like a drum smoker or a Weber Smoky Mountain. You have to play with the air vents to get it where you want it. The legs mount on this thing. There's 3 legs that mount on with these bolts right onto the side, or the brackets, and then each leg mounts into the bracket. There's 3 of those. There's a nice bottom shelf. It's metal. It's got the Char-Griller logo on it. One of the things I found impressive about this unit is it doesn't have the cheap plastic tires. These tires are kind of a hard rubber tire mounted on a heavy plastic wheel with a hubcap. And around front it has a caster, a locking caster, which allows you to lock this guy into position and roll it wherever you want it, and it will lock into position and stay right where you put it. The lid hinge is fairly heavy duty here. To install this guy, the top part came fastened already onto the dome lid. We just had to put these bolts in, 2 on each side, to fasten the dome on. And that's about everything of interest on the outside of this guy. So when you open it up, you have 2 grilling racks that come with this. You have this extended rack that swivels, and it has a 13-inch diameter. I measured this earlier with tape measure, and it's 13 inches. It can mount on either side of the grill. The cast iron grate's got a hole for that here, and it has another one over here, so if you want it on the left or the right, you can move it around. And then we have our big heavy cast iron cooking grate. It's got a center ring that pops out. I haven't cleaned this grate yet. This grate came with some sort of rust inhibitor on it, and it needs to be washed off with soap and water and then re-seasoned, which we're going to do a little bit later. But the centerpiece pops out. It's still got a little bit of the styrofoam packing stuck in there on that. This centerpiece popping out gives you access to your firebox or a diffuser if you have one installed. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this whole grate just lifts right off to give us access to the inside. And down here we have our charcoal grate, which just sits on the bottom of the firebox. And the whole firebox lifts out. You can lift it out, and that would give you access. If you wanted to clean ash out of this guy, you could clean it out from the top. Or one of the really neat features I think is cool about this particular unit is that we have the ash pan. The whole bottom segment of this thing is held on by two latches, and there are handles here, one on each side. You can unlatch those and lift the ash pan, or let the ash pan come right off and dump it from the bottom rather than to have to clean ash out from the top. I think that's a pretty neat feature. And one of the additional things I know a lot of you do too, you like to cook low and slow or cook indirect. This Kamado right out of the box doesn't give you an indirect method. Char-Griller does have a device that they're advertising called a smoking stone. That's it sort of looks like a green egg plate setter without the legs on it that fit. It sits down on these flanges in the firebox. It's got three legs that extend out, and then a circular stone for setting up indirect cooking. I spoke with Char-Griller yesterday, and that device is not available yet, and it won't be available until April 1st of 2012, according to their customer service. So what I did in the meantime is try to come up with an alternative solution that I might actually like better. So I stopped by Lowe's Hardware, or actually Home Depot, today and picked up a Weber charcoal grate. This is the standard Weber replacement charcoal grate for the 22.5-inch kettle. Picked this guy up at Home Depot for $11 plus tax, and it sits right down on these flanges also. So that's kind of a better setup, maybe, in my opinion. I can set my pizza stone on there if I want to use it as a heat deflector, or I could even set my pizza stone itself. Well, I could set a drip pan on there if I wanted to have a drip pan or a water pan, or a pizza pan even would sit right in here to become your heat deflector for indirect cooking. So that's pretty good setup, I think. I think I'm going to be happy with that. We'll set the grill back on here and put the centerpiece back on, and then this time we'll put the elevated grid on the left side. And the elevated grid will spin out of the way if you've got food underneath it. This elevated grid's fairly sturdy. You probably could cook a butt or a chicken or even a turkey or something on that while you've got something else going underneath it. And the dome's got plenty of clearance. I measured this I measured this gap from here to here also, and it's about 5.5 inches of clearance underneath that. And I'm not exactly sure how much clearance we have. I don't know if you could get a butt on there with the lid closed or not. It's kind of hard to say. The extended grid's something new for me. I've never had a double grid on a setup like this. Okay, so that's basically our walk around. What my next step is going to be is I am going to follow the instructions that came in the manual, actually, which I know I don't do that very often, but this grid, this cast iron grid needs cleaning. I'm going to clean it with warm soap and water, and then I'm going to lather it up with some Crisco, and we're going to bring it back out here and cook. Well, we're not going to cook, we're going to run a seasoning run on the grill. The manual recommends bringing it up to 400 degrees for an hour or so to burn off any residual oils that are here, which is pretty standard, but I do use cast iron. I love cooking on cast iron, and I'm familiar with the seasoning process, and we're going to want to get this grill grate seasoned up real well where we don't have to deal with rust or anything. So in the next segment of the video, or in part 2 of the video, we'll go through that process. I'm going to put some lump charcoal in here, and we're going to bring it up to temp, see how easy it is to bring up the temp and keep it there, and look for some other things during that process like air leaks. Oh, I forgot to mention our gasket. We do have, this lid does have a gasket all the way around, which helps make the cooker airtight, and that same type of gasket exists on the bottom here at the ash pan. It's all the way around, so hopefully we're going to have a fairly tight air seal. As I look for potentials for air leaks on this grill, the only place I see air leak potential is maybe here at the bottom air vent. I don't know how airtight that guy is when it's actually closed down, but we'll find out, and we'll see how well it works. When it's in the closed position, there is some tension on it, so it feels fairly good there. So there we have it. The Char-Griller Kamado, $299, and that'll wrap up our walk around. And in the next video segment, we'll do the seasoning cook.